Good morning. I'm still working on cows, but I mentioned. Excuse me. Excuse me. Oh, of course. Um, the color ribbon that I wanted, because I had just originally used some ribbon from an old Christmas ornament to tie my bell on. So I am going to put my ribbons and my bells on, and then I'm going to start a new one. And later today, I have the pattern for just the one of those mornings. I'm going to have the pattern for just so far. I'll probably, the ears are simple horns, and so I'll probably have the pattern for the whole cow later this morning on my website, or this afternoon or evening, at least by tomorrow morning. Um, it'll be free. It'll just be listed on my website if you want to read through it or use it or whatever, and I'll put the accessories that I put on it as well. That way you know exactly how to make a cow, but it will include the basic body, and the basic body is what I'll use to make dogs, bunnies, whatever. But I am in the process because I wanted to add a couple of pictures. So I'm making this one out of blue, so I can so you can see the stitches a little bit better. It's hard to see the stitches with the blanket yarn, but this way you can see the stitches a little bit better with this one. Yeah, I added a little bit of zoom. Why not? I'll stick them on my table. But I think today I'm going to put a green one on this one. I actually have 3 cows done, so I can do my green, blue, and yellow, or green, blue, and lavender ribbons. Oh no, what got into my nose this morning? But yeah, adding bells to my cows, and then I'm going to make another one. Thank you, Shirley, for following me. And this is like my love. I love this stuff. It's just freight check that's been around forever, but it works on all of my fabrics, and I noticed that you really can't tell on any of them that oh, I didn't turn my, hold on, let me turn my headset on. You guys all still there? You could probably hear me a little bit better now. Can you hear me a little bit better? Thank you for the follow, Cassandra. I do apologize if I don't get back to everybody's comments. It's kind of hard to look through my bifocals to read, and then my, just, you know what I mean, if any of you are older. But I'm not all that great with bows, but here goes nothing. To attach the bells, I just have like a little jump ring on my bell. If any of you were with me last week, you'll know that one of the reasons why I decided to make cows was because I did a cow for a commission. It was one of my daughter's friends. I don't usually do commissions. And she wanted a bag that was shaped like a cow, and I thought, well, what's a cow without a bell? So to buy like a little decorative bell that was small enough that would fit around the bag, I had to buy a bag of bells. So I thought, I'll make some cows. So this one, not sure how much ribbon I'll need. Bows really aren't my forte. But I strung it through that side. And I'll put the side of the ribbon through here, and then I'll just tie it off. But not. Tie my bow. And I will go through later and I'll stitch and maybe add a little bit of glue to the bows so that they don't come apart. Because nobody really wants to buy a toy that comes apart. And again, if you were with me on Friday, you'll know I like my glue. Alright, so I think I know I'm picky about the details. But this bottle's almost empty. But never fear, I have a brand new bottle near. And that one's going to be my blue ribbon cow, or teal. I went teal and lavender and blue for my cows. So that's what he's going to look like done. I might trim the ends a little bit shorter when I secure the bow a little bit better, but you can hear they're actually bells. They actually ring. Good morning to everybody that joined. I'm working on cows. The cows that I use, or the pattern that I use for the cows is actually just a basic doll pattern that I put together myself. And I am working on it, so later on tonight, maybe by tomorrow morning, I will have the pattern on my website. It'll be free. It'll just be a page on my website, and I will also make the instructions for how to make the ears, the nose, and the horns. But today's goal is just basically to make another cow. So I have all my notes, which is why it takes me a day or so to write a pattern, because most of the patterns that I do freehand, but I do try to take notes so that I can recreate them. I actually have a whole notebook full of notes. But, yeah, I'd love for you to join me crochet. Good morning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I use a lot of bobby pins. This pattern works from the head down, so it works from the crown of the head down to the legs, and there's spaces left open that you can I need to stop that. As you work the pattern down, and if you stay with me for the whole bear, you'll see that after you work the neck, you actually skip stitches for the arm you work the rest of the way around the body, and then you work around one leg, and then you finish it off, and then you come back and I do the second leg. That way if I need to shove some more stuffing up through the arms, I can. But the only thing I need to sew onto the cow would actually just be the horns and the horns and the snout and the accessories. I also mark my eyes as I'm going down the head of it so that I know exactly where I'm putting my eyes. And my eyes, I use safety eyes. And I found that because the fabric, the yarn is so thick, like the holes are thicker, and the safety eyes pushing it out too easy. So I actually have some, it's Palon. I don't know if you can see how thick that is, but it's pretty thick. It's thicker than a regular piece of fabric. It's stiff. It's Palon 926 is what it is, and it's a stiff interfacing that doesn't have like a fusible iron-on. It's one of the only ones, but it's one that I like. So when I use it for sewing, I have to buy like Wonder Web to stick it, but I use this Palon, and I just cut a square out, and then I put it behind on the inside of my crochet, and stick my eyes through it and the Palon before I put my washers on. That way it doesn't pull through the crochet, since the holes are so big with the blanket yarn. This is one of my first attempts. I've made a blanket with it before, but the plushies all look so cute, I thought, well, maybe I'll give it a try. But I do find things like the eyes don't stay in as well as they do with the smaller cotton yarn or acrylic yarn. But thank you everybody for following me. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Cookie. Thank you. Whoops, dropped my notes. If I don't get to your comment, I do apologize. You can always DM me if you have questions. Again, I'm going to try to get the pattern for this on my website. I don't have many patterns on my website. It's really just more like a gallery, but I'm going to create a page and put this pattern on it so you can go to it, and it's just going to be free. And where am I? I did 12. I'm going to do 18. And it's simple. And it's quick. When I'm not talking, it actually takes me maybe about 30 or 40 minutes to do a cow. The other thing about this yarn, it never comes. I'm a center pull person, and it center pulls, but not that great. Okay, so what was I? 1, 2, 7. And if you've never done amigurumi before, which is what they call making like stuffed animals and things, it's really, a lot of it's really just the basic circle. So if you know how to do a basic circle, you don't have to know how to do a magic ring. You can chain 2 and start your ring, start your circle, and the second chain from the hook as well. Thank you for the follow. I am making cows. Cows. And it's a basic just doll pattern that I'll put stuff on, and eventually I'll make some rabbits or some dogs or I don't know, whatever. But here's my cow. Guess I should leave her sit here, huh? And yeah, so see if I can get another one done this morning. My lovely stitch markers. I also use, I found that because with the acrylic yarn, when I would pin my pieces, I would just pin them with ball pins, but the ball pins slide right through this stuff. So I use my bobby pins to pin my pieces on while I sew them too, because then they don't slide down into the, thank you very much. Yeah, I made one, and my daughter said, you know, that's mine. And I do craft fairs in the summer. And then all of a sudden, my husband walked past, and he's like, oh my God, is that mine? I'm like, no. But the craft fair, I'm looking for some extra ones to do this year. The one I usually do is in the summer, and I live near a lake, so it's like a lake festival. And it's big, and it's outside, and I have enough room for all my stuff. I started doing it a few years ago because my dad, who paints and does watercolors, is obviously older. My mother encouraged him to start taking his stuff and trying to sell it other than galleries. I live in the middle of nowhere by like I said, and my parents live in the city. So my dad will do gallery shows, but he has to have like stuff framed. And he actually has stacks and stacks and stacks of unframed art. So I told him, just bring it up here unframed. Sit it on a table. There's so many people that come to this festival. And he actually makes a killing. He puts all these giant like giant watercolors, like 22 by, I don't know what they are exactly, but he puts them all just on his stacks on a table, and people just sit there for hours and flip through these watercolors, and he sells them at like $10 or $20 a pop and makes a killing over the 2 days. It's so I started doing that with him because my mother said, you know, he'll need help if he's down there. So I said, okay, I have enough stuff. I should probably, you know, you can only give so much away, especially when you like to do it as much as I do. So I decided that, okay, sure, I'll do the Lake Fest with him. So that's how I started doing just even more than I did before, if that's even possible. I have bins in my living room now that need to be moved to my garage with inventory so far from the winter. Because not only do I crochet, but I like to sew. So I have tons. I have 2 big bins, a medium-sized bin, and 2 that are probably like double shoebox size so far, full of inventory. And that doesn't count the inventory I have in my garage. So yeah, I do a lot, which is one of the reasons why I decided to open up my shop. Which, you guys are here to crochet, not to shop, but I don't know if any of you guys have shops online other than like Etsy or something like that, but do any of you have any luck? Because I never have any luck. I post all these videos, and good morning everybody that just joined. I post all these videos, and I post the stuff that I make, and I let people know that it's available, but I don't think anybody has ever visited my shop except my sister, who is crazy and insists on paying me for things when I would happily just make them for her. She won't even take stuff off my stands at the craft shows. She will insist on paying me. Insist that my niece has to pay me. Insist that my nephew has to pay me. So I've started actually when I do the shows and she comes up to like browse things that she kind of like looks at for a long time or maybe tries on or maybe looks really interested in. I usually just take them off the hanger, stick them in my bag, and that's her Christmas present. Because she insists on paying me, which I think is absurd. But I do appreciate the sentiment. I do take the time. And it's like the whole family is artists. So she understands the time. She doesn't paint or draw, but she is a photographer for one of the major universities in a bigger city. So we all kind of do something. And I learned to crochet from my mother. Good morning, everybody that joined. Thank you for following. I learned to crochet from my mother and her sisters. I'm sure well before I was 10 years old, but my first recollections of actually sitting and making things were about around 10 years old. So before 10, I'm sure, is when I learned how to crochet. And then my mother, as a primary job when I was that little, was a seamstress for a dress shop. So that's how I learned to sew. So like I can do all this stuff here and I love it. I really, really do. And I'm sorry if I'm quiet for a couple minutes because some of these rows I do need to count. For those of you who were here last week, here comes my huffy dog. He likes to sit and huff at me. He's a chocolate lab. Somebody commented he needs anxiety meds, and yeah, he probably needs some anxiety meds. Just the noise you hear is him huffing and just brought his bone in and threw it at my feet. Because he knows that if he throws it at my feet, I usually fill it with peanut butter. Let me count this round here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 27. I actually got it right while I was talking. 27 is basically the most amount of stitches in the round. So I'll do another even round, and after the even round I will mark with just some scrap yarn where I'm going to put my eyes, and I'll show you after a couple more rounds after that how I do my eyes. And if you guys don't mind, it's my cow. I'm going to put my cow on my chair for like a minute just so I can fill this bone with peanut butter so that he stops huffing at me. Yes, you're a good boy. So if you give me like just a minute, I'll get rid of the huffy dog. My little cow. I'll be right back. Come on, Charlie. There you go. Thanks. Sorry about that. Good morning, Glenda. Good morning, everybody. Dakota, thank you for the follow. Dan's girl, thank you for the follow. I tried my best. I try my best to keep up with the comments. Sometimes it's hard to count and talk and read. Good morning, Lori. And try to see what I'm crocheting through some of my glasses and read the comments through my bifocals. Good morning. Okay, next round is going to be just an even round. And again, I'm going to try to get, I have the majority of the pattern typed up. I'm just working on a smaller one so I can get some pictures for you guys. And I'm just going to add a page to my website where you can just go and read the pattern and have the pattern if you want. I'm going to do both, the one for the basic doll, just for the basic doll part. And then I will put the ears and the horns on there, and I guess as I make like other things out of them, like maybe dogs or rabbits, I'll add those instructions too. But I'd at least like to get the pattern for this part up. If you guys want it, you can have it. It's pretty simple. You can honestly make it out of any yarn. The yarn I'm making it out of for the pattern on my website is just acrylic so that you can see the stitches a little bit better. Because this yarn is kind of hard to see the stitches. Let's see. 27. Okay, so now I'm going to mark where I want my eyes. So I'm going to show you how I do that. So, single crochet 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then buzz in my mouth. I'm just going to take a piece of scrap yarn and I'm going to lay it on top of my round here, and then I'm going to crochet the next stitch. So 6, so crochet around the marker. That's where I'm going to put my eye, and then I'm going to crochet 4 more, and then I'm going to take another piece of scrap yarn and do the same thing. So those are going to be where I put my eyes. And then 15 more around. So that's the round, and I have my eyes marked. 2 more even rounds, and then I can, I'll show you how I put my eyes on with the Pellon stabilizer so they don't pop through the big holes in the fabric. Good morning to everybody that joined. Thank you, everybody that followed me. Oh, thank you for the roses. I'm not sure who gave them to me. I'm very, very sorry, but thank you so much if you did. And I just use regular safety eyes. Oh, I was going to tell you, I get about 4.5, depends on how loose I crochet, cows out of one skein of yarn. One of the, this is what it looks like now, the Bernat baby blanket yarn. So this will be cow number 4 I got out of that skein. And then I just bought a lighter color to do the pieces. You know, the ears I do the same color, but the horns and the nose, I bought a lighter color to do. And it depends on my mood. Some of them are a little bit bigger, some of them are a little bit smaller. It depends on how stressed I am and how tight I'm crocheting that day. You know, it's handmade, so it's always going to vary a little bit, even when you're making the same thing over and over. It's still going to vary a little bit. But I don't mind using this yarn, actually. I think it makes great plushies. The only other time I used it, aside from my little cows here, are I made my grandson a blanket a couple years ago with a teddy bear that matched. And that was the only time I used it. Other than that, I usually just... I know, nobody likes Red Heart. I like Red Heart. People think it's scratchy and stiff. I don't mind working with scratchy and stiff. And I've found that it's very durable. So as soon as you throw it in the washer, it's super soft. And it loosens up. It will actually grow a little bit. So if you're making a pattern with the Red Heart stuff, and you think it needs to be a little bit bigger, it probably, if it's just a smidge, a little bit bigger you think it needs to be, it probably doesn't, because as soon as you throw that Red Heart in the washer and dryer, it softens up and it tends to loosen up a little bit. But I don't mind. And then I have a subscription to Darn Good Yarn of the Month. I don't know if any of you have ever tried that, but they mostly send you a skein a month of recycled silk. It's a bit pricey. I keep my subscription because the price went up, and if I cancel my subscription, I have to pay double what I pay now. You just get, they're actually tiny balls of yarn that you get. This is a new one with a tag. So, and this is what I was making scrappy scarves with, because I can just do a row, tie it off, and leave the end for the fringe. But you can see here, like, this is what you get. And I think I pay $13, but it's only 50 grams. It's only 75 yards. So it's really, and when you go to their website to buy it, it's like $15 or $20 for one of these little balls because it's recycled silk. I don't know. But I pay much less than that with the subscription, only because I've had it for so long. And then I take it and collect them. And when I have enough, I just pick a few of them and work a scarf with it. And then I don't weave in my ends. I just leave the ends as my fringe. But those are some of the things that I put on my table when I do craft shows. I wanted to do one in April Good morning. I wanted to do one in April, and when I called, and I said, I crochet, I do some knitting, I have tatted Christmas ornaments that I make puppets, mostly puppets, wraps, and bags. This is really going to be the first time I have any kind of plushies on my table. She was rather rude to me. You would think, like, people would be happy to take your money so that you can sit there. Instead, she was like, you know what? We have enough people like you. Was exactly what she said to me. We have enough people like you. If you want us to put you on a waiting list in case somebody cancels, we'll be happy to put you on a waiting list. And I thought, that's okay. I'll just find somewhere else to go, I guess. But, I mean, really, how insulting is that? We have enough people like you. Okay, I know that there's a lot of us that do things like this, but we don't all do the same things. Like, I don't have dishcloths and towel toppers and scarf. Well, I do have some scarves or hats, or I don't make like the cowls, like cowl, like COWL that goes around your neck. Like, I don't really make stuff like that. I mostly have lacy shawls and bags, tote bags, purses, things that I know other people aren't making, but they have enough people like me. Okay. All right, so I got down to the point where I'm going to add my eyes, so I'll show you how I add my eyes. This one I can tell right now is going to be a little bit bigger than the last one. Eyes. What size eyes did I use? I used these ones. I'm running out of big eyes. And my washers. I know one of the other things that I had mentioned was that sometimes when I buy eyes, noses, things like that, they come without the safety washers. And I didn't have these like right handy, but I had bought noses, right? And they came with this flat shank on it and no washers. So I went to the hardware store with my nose and found these little, I don't know if you can see, they are just plastic, or nylon actually is what they call them, nylon washers that fit down right over top of them. And then to secure it, I just took a lighter and burnt the end and smashed it down over top of the hole. So if you ever get safety eyes, you can always go to the hardware store and look for these little nylon washers, and they work really well. But I do have washers for these eyes. So I will take my Pellon to put my eyes on, and I will cut a couple of squares. And I do the same thing for the nostrils, so that, because the nostrils are even smaller, so, but I'll cut a couple pieces like this. And then I will take and, I know, you use whatever tool seems to work best. This tool works best. Puts a hole in it. So I put my hole in there. I put my, I take my string out and put my eye right where the string was. And then when I flip it inside out, you can see, like, even the bigger eyes tend to, like, push through the fabric. So I take my Pellon and I snap it over the shank of my safety eye, my scissors, before I put my washer on. And then after I do that, I will burn the ends of it. I'm sure most of you guys have seen this trick already. Burn the ends of it until I can push it down. So the end of the safety eye, you have to, if you wait till it cools, this will pop right off. So then you can see that the eye is bigger than the hole, so it really won't slip down through the washer. And I'll do the same thing with the other eye. I'll pull my, and I'll push my eye in, flip it inside out, take my piece of Pellon or interfacing, push it down over the shank, pop my washer on, and burn it down. So that it's bigger. And then after I've done that, I love my glue. I have 5 kids. They're all grown now. But I'm so used to making things so that they, like, stay together. And honestly, you could probably just throw this in the washer and dryer with a load of towels and it would come out. But I put my glue around my on the underside of my interfacing. So even if you tried to push the eye through it, it is, I know it's going to be backwards, but I'll show you. It's fabric fusion, and it is, if you can see there, permanent. And like I said, I know it's backwards. And then I just flip the head right side out again. So my eyes are in there with the Pellon and glued and singed in there so they don't come off. Good morning. And then I'll finish the head and stuff it and go from there. So let's see. Right. Do some decreasing rounds. And I don't really make a neck on this. I just kind of, the neck is wide, so that it doesn't flop around. So I don't really make a neck. I did just make a mess out of my yarn. And then I just tied a ribbon around it so it looks more like a neck. But it's the way, you know, everybody has their own personal preferences. Everybody likes to crochet and everybody likes their dolls to look like they like them. Which is why I couldn't understand why the crazy lady said that she already had enough people like me. Oh well. Alright. My handy dandy stitch markers in this round. Decrease to 24. 1. 18. The most stitches in the round in my head is 27. So if you want like a bigger doll, smaller doll, you can see the more relaxed I am, the bigger the stitches are. I have a couple that are just a little bit bigger. Same amount of stitches, I just crocheted it a little bit looser. Just keeping me company. So everybody can see what he is. Sort of, I guess. And then I'll stuff the head and start working down the body. The body's only a couple of rounds. I think maybe actually only 2 or 3 rounds. And then I leave holes for the arms and legs so they can just be crocheted around. And if you're new to amigurumi, I like to do what's called an invisible increase and an invisible decrease. So, just to show you, if I were going to increase my stitches, I would, it's hard to see on this yarn, if I were going to increase my stitches, I would you can see the 2 loops. So to increase my stitches, I would go into the next loop, the next stitch, but I would single crochet the first single crochet through the back loop, and then after I finish that, you can see the front loop down here from it. I know it's really hard to see this way, but I would pick up that front loop and I would crochet a second stitch in the front loop, and that way you don't get like the big hole from the increase. So to do an invisible increase, I would do my first stitch in the back loop, my second stitch in the front loop. Now to do an invisible decrease, I would take those same stitches and I would, sorry, I'm not paying attention here, I would pick up the first loop from the stitch that I wanted to decrease, and then I would go under and pick up the front loop from the second stitch that I wanted to decrease. I would yarn over and pull through both of those, and then yarn over and finish my single crochet. And that makes like an invisible decrease so that you don't really see that you've pulled the stitches together. I know it looks kind of funny because I'm trying to show you this way, which is not really easy, but I do have an explanation about those in the pattern I'm hoping to get on my website later today for the little cows. But yeah, so I would do my single crochet, and then I would pick up the front loop, pick up the next front loop, pull them through, pull it together, and finish. Pick up the front loop, pick up the next front loop, pull through both those loops, and finish. And it doesn't leave the bumps. Does that make sense? Like the invisible increases don't leave the holes because you're putting 2 stitches into the, you're putting one of the stitch in the back and one of the stitch in the front, so it doesn't leave the big hole because you have 2 stitches in 1 stitch. In the invisible decrease, pulls it tighter without leaving like that bump. I don't know how many stitches I got here. Let me see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, mean 12. Okay, so that should have been a decrease. All right, so I have the head done so far. Now from the head, I'm going to stick some stuffing in them. Just to give him some shape, and he'll be a little bit easier to hang on to. This is my cows. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Everybody that's followed me, I appreciate it. Let's see here. So I'm not going to stuff them too much, just enough to kind of hold the shape for now while I work on the rest of it. So that's his head. At which point in time, I'm not going to do neck, I'm just going to start with a body. So let me see where am I at. Okay. So I decreased to 18, I decreased to 12, and now I'm going to go right back and increase to 18 again. And then I'll show you how I do the arms. So, 1, how is everybody this morning? Thank you for the follows. Good morning. Again, I'm making like the little cow. Whoops. And I start with like a basic body. I don't sew my arms on. I leave holes to crochet my arms in, and I crochet my legs right onto the bottom, so I don't have to sew any of that. The only pieces that I would have to sew on would be the nose. So if you just wanted to make like voodoo dolls, that's kind of what they look like, gingerbread people, whatever. Okay, one more round, and then I'll split and show you how I separate for the arms. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. I really, really do. Halfway done with this round, then I'll show you. So this round has 24 stitches in it. And we're going to divide that by 4. And that's how we're going to separate for the arms. We're going to divide it by 4. So this is my stitch marker. And I'm going to count 6, which is hard to see. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that would be the first 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'll put it in the 7th stitch. I'm going to count the 7th stitch as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to put it in that last stitch there. So this is 1 and this is 6. And what you want to make sure is that that's going to be the front of the body. So you want to kind of make sure it's about where the eyes are so that your arms aren't twisted. So now that I know, now if it's not and your pins are like shifted a little bit, you can add a stitch or 2 so that you want to be able to skip 6 stitches right on the side. So I'm going to skip my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'm going to pull this over and I'm going to crochet in that 7th stitch. Then I'm going to crochet 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, because I already counted out those first stitches, I should know that the rest of them, and you'll see here that this kind of pops out, sort of like a sweater would maybe, for the shoulder. So I had 6 stitches, and now for the second arm, I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, skip my 6 stitches, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 across the back. So that's where my round is going to be from now on to the bottom. But you can see how it leaves 3 holes. The six stitches that I skipped for the first arm, the 6 stitches across the front, the 6 stitches I skipped for the back arm, and the 6 stitches across the back. 6 stitches. So now that I separated those, I'm going to do one round to increase it just a little bit. So that's going to be my new first stitch. So let's see here. I have 2 single crochets and an increase, which gives me 16. 1, 2, 3, 4. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And the reason I wanted to, and I'm going to do one round even. The reason why I wanted to increase the body just a little bit after I did the arms is because you want the legs to be just a little bit fatter than the arms. So if I increase it, that gives me, whereas I have 6 stitches to crochet around for an arm, if I have 16 stitches at the bottom of my body, that gives me 8 stitches to crochet around for each leg. So this round's even. You'll notice I'm not joining any of these rounds. These rounds are all worked in just spirals without being joined so that there's no seam. When you tend to work in spirals, the beginning of your round tends to shift just a little bit to the left. So when you're doing things like arms, you just want to make sure you count and just kind of eyeball to make sure you're getting them where you want. Just like with the legs, I'm going to squash this to make sure that I have 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. It'll give me that front leg, and 1, 2, 3, 4. It'll give me the front of this leg. So I do. If I count 4, it ends up in the middle. So I'm going to do the first leg. I'm going to single crochet those first 4. Since I would want my legs to be 8 stitches each, that's 4 across the front. I'm going to skip 4 across the front for the next leg, and then I'm going to skip 4 across the back for the other leg, and then I'm just going to I'm going to skip all these stitches. So that's my 8 stitches, my 4 across the front and my 4 across the back that I'm skipping, and I'm going to bring my hook to the back. And if you do amigurumi, you know a lot of these tricks. But then I'm going to finish off the last 4 for that first leg. So now I've started down the first leg. So I have my 2 holes for my arms. I have my 2 holes for my legs. I've started down the first leg. Oh my goodness, I wish I don't know. Well, I have some comments there, and the only language I speak is English. So I'm not real sure. It looks like somebody's from Turkey. I'm not real sure, but either way, I'm glad you joined me, because most of it's just visual and me just babbling. But now that I've done the first row, I'm going to do 1 row even, and then I'll do the toe. I'll show you how I do the toe. Okay, so now to do the toe, because you see the legs are short. I mean, and it's funny because if you did a doll that was proportionate it to like a human body or a regular animal, it would look more like a sculpture and not like a stuffed toy. Stuffed toys, the heads are always as big as pretty much the rest of the body. So the legs are short. So I got to do the toe, I'm going to look for, and again it's hard to see the stitches, but I'm going to look for the 3 stitches that are 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, that are most in the front. So you would want to look for 1, 2, 3 on the top of the foot. That's where you're going to increase. So you're going to do 3 increases at the top of the foot. So I'm actually going to do 1 stitch, and then I'm going to increase in the next 3. It should give me 11 because I had 8. If I'm increasing 3, it gives me 11. Okay, so now you can see where I increased just those 3 in the front, brought the toe out. So the back of the leg is straight down, and then the toe kind of comes towards the front. So now I'm going to do that one more time, but since I added stitches, I'm going to come back to the front and just kind of eyeball where the 3 middle stitches are again. So these are my 3, 1, 2, 3 stitches. Let me see, 1, that's a stitch there too. So 1, 2, 3 stitches. Okay, so to get to this stitch, this is where I want to start my increases. I have to work 2 stitches first. So I'm going to work my 2 stitches. And then again, right at the toe, I'm going to increase 3 stitches. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, one more increase, 7, 8, then wrist around, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So now you can really see that toe. And that's it. I'm going to take it and I'm going to decrease around, since I have 14 stitches, I'm going to decrease around 7. And again, I'm going to do that invisible decrease where I pick up the first loop, pick up the second loop, pull through those loops. It's 1, and then I'm going to go to the next one, pick up the first one, pick up the second one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now when I do my last decrease, since I'm going to pull this together to my drawstring, hold on, it's my husband. I'm actually going to pull up like I'm going to decrease, and then instead of working a single crochet, I'm just going to slip stitch. So then when you stuff this, it will look like the foot. When you pull it around, it will look like the foot. Alright, I think I probably need to end this because I think if I don't call him back, he's going to get worried. If I'm on later, I might be on later. I'm usually on in between 9 and 10 o'clock in the mornings during the weekdays. I am going to try to get this pattern onto my personal website, and it will be free, so it'll just be a page that you can just go to and read the pattern for the basic doll. As you can see, it's starting to look like a little gingerbread man. And I will put also the pattern for like what I did for the ears and the horns and the nose so that I could make the cow. So that pattern should be up hopefully by tomorrow morning. I have most of it done, but I still have to work on getting the rest of it done and getting it on there. Patient with me. Boy, I tell you what, I really appreciate you guys all coming to join me this morning. Thank you for the roses. Thank you for the follows. I really do appreciate it. Gives me something to babble, talk to other people with the same interests. That makes me happy. And hopefully I encourage other people to maybe pick it up and try it too. Thanks.